Birds of caution, anxiety in the air as we move closer towards the 2023 elections. Political parties and their candidates are strategizing. A note of warning on citizens' engagement too. The federal government today says state governors are to blame over the nation's poverty status, and the latest report, which estimates that over 130 million Nigerians are in multidimensional poverty. We hear the explanation of the federal government. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimale in Abuja. Let's get down to our countdown, which is today, 88 days to the 2023 elections, and we anticipate, it's 87 days to the 2023 elections, and we anticipate the opportunity when Nigerians will be able to elect their leaders in February next year. So get your PVC and make your vote count. Count down with me, Nigerians, as we look forward to the opportunity to exercise your franchise. 87 days and we are counting down. Nigeria decides. That's the hashtag. Well, as part of the preparations, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has today deployed a bimodal accreditation system to all states of the Federation. That happened today with the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, saying, watching keenly as a bimodal voter accreditation system machines loaded in cartons arranged in those boxes in the Nigerian Air Force C-130 plane for airlift into other states under the supervision of the Air Force officers at the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Ikeja in Lagos. That earlier today, the commission, INEC, has insisted that the device is crucial in the conduct of the 2023 elections. Well, as part of that preparations and looking ahead, what we told you earlier, the anxiety that is in the air, political parties are organizing themselves under the umbrella of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. They are asking political parties and their colleagues and the candidates who are running for office in the forthcoming general elections to run campaigns that are devoid of violence and contributes to the peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections. The chairman of IPAC, Alhaji Yabagi Sani, made the appeal at a summit with presidential candidates and leaders of political parties in Abuja. Meanwhile, the governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma, who spoke at that event, is asking the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and security agencies to resist the manipulations of politicians and commit the conduct of free and fair elections, a credible one that is, towards next year. Take a listen to him when we're speaking earlier today at that event.
With political parties or their candidates to compromise the sanctity or integrity of the exercise, you also know what will happen. In other words, an efficient, corrupt-free and patriotic security personnel can go a long way in ensuring that we have a free and transparent elections whose results will be judged as fair and credible. Therefore, it is to be expected that as the general elections beckon, many Nigerians and the election watchers will be concerned about how the security agencies will conduct themselves. The failure of INEC to rise to its responsibilities in any of these stages of election can undermine the credibility of the elections. Thus, INEC must be honest, INEC must be transparent, and INEC must be fair in all its activities at various stages of the process. Above all, INEC should be free from any form of interference from any quarters.
Before we bring you some of your political roundup stories, let's tell you and give you the soundbite where the federal government was blaming state governors for the rising poverty levels across the Federation. The Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Mr. Clem Agba, told the media after the Federal Executive Council meeting today that the federal government's social investment plan has not impacted optimally because of lack of cooperation from state governors. Mr. Agba, who absolved the federal government of any blames, accused the governors of focusing on building gigantic projects such as flyovers and airports, which are visible in the state capitals, instead of building roads that will halt post-harvest losses for farmers and ameliorate poverty. Take a listen to him.
If the government, federal government, puts the entire income that it earns into all of this without some form of complementarity from the state governments in playing their part, it will seem as if we are throwing money in a pond. Because the governors basically are only functioning in their state capitals. And democracy that we preach about is delivering the greatest good to the greatest number of people. And from our demography, it shows that the greatest number of our people live in the rural areas. But the governors are not working in the rural areas. Right now, 70% of our people live in the rural areas. They produce 90% of what we eat. And unfortunately, 60% of what they produce is lost due to post-harvest losses. It does not get to the market.
That's the Minister for Budget and National Planning, Mr. Clem Agba. Now, we will focus on the 2023 elections tonight. And we're going to be looking at it from the prism of the All Progressives Congress APC. And tonight we'll be talking to a former governor who is also a very strong member of the presidential campaign organization of the APC. He'll be giving us insight on Bola Tinubu, the quest for the presidential seat, and why the APC deserves to retain power, especially with Bola Tinubu and Kashim Shettima on the ballot. We'll be hearing from the former governor tonight. Stay with me, everyone, because we'll serve you first with your political roundup stories.
The Senate Deputy Chief Whip, Senator Sabi Abdullahi, says he is confident of the victory of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in the 2023 presidential election. At a press conference in Abuja for the inauguration of Project Tour 774 local government movement across the country in Abuja, the lawmaker says Tinubu is a true Democrat who is ready to use his wealth of experience in public service to move the nation to a developed society he voted as president.
We are confident that with the support group we are having, which is purely volunteer by members of our great party, the APC, we are going to mobilize votes from all the units to ensure victory for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Jagaban Borgu as our president, and Senator Kashim Shettima as our vice president come 2023.
The governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress in Lagos, Funsho Doherty, has unveiled his 5-point agenda for the state codenamed Tiger. Mr. Doherty says he believes the resources of Lagos has not been properly managed, such that the larger population benefits from it. He adds that his Tiger agenda is formulated to plug the gaps. The APC in Oyo State is picking up its campaign as the party staged an official flag presentation to candidates. Earlier, road walk around major roads in Oyo Township took place to create awareness for the rally, which took place at Obadeyemi Mini Stadium, Oyo, where members of the party gathered to support their candidates. An election monitoring group, Yaga Africa, and the Not Too Young to Run movement has convened the 4th edition of the Convergence 4.0 for young candidates across the 19 northern states running for elective offices at all levels. The event, which took place in Kano, had in attendance young candidates from the 19 northern states, politicians, civil society groups, and professionals with the theme leadership, politics, and elections.
We can't have a country where political parties are charging hundreds of millions as nomination fees. We can't have a country where political party leaders just stand up and just substitute candidates just because they want to serve perceived or a deeply entrenched political interests in their parties. That's unacceptable.
The Conference of Civil Society Groups in Abuja is raising the alarm about an alleged plot to usurp the roles of the National Assembly Service Commission in the appointment of a new clerk for the National Assembly. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the group says the National Assembly Commission has been inundated with pressure and interferences in the ongoing succession process. The group is calling on well-meaning Nigerians to intervene and allow the commission to do its job.
The succession process of the clerk to the National Assembly has been dogged by controversies. The political elites must unlearn their unacceptable habits of bending the rules.
Civil society organization under the auspices of Advocacy for Good Ethics and Accountability is asking citizens to shun political violence and play according to the provision of the Electoral Act. At a sensitization press briefing of Forum for Citizens and Presidential Candidates in Abuja, convener of the group, Mr. Henry Thomas, appealed to voters to shun vote buying and ensure that they vote for the right candidate who is capable of delivering the dividends of democracy to the nation.
You've been served with your political roundup stories, and I guess now you are up to date. Well then, let's tell you also that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, was in Ondo State today for campaign and has promised to provide enough funds for education, spraying that Nigerians will never witness a repeat of APC's government beyond 2023, which he says brought untold hardship on Nigerians. The PDP presidential candidate made this known at the party's rally in Akure, the Ondo State capital.
We want to show you that we appreciated what you have done to us in the last election. You have given us the highest votes in the Southwest. We will never forget you. That is why, if you repeat the support again, we promise we will definitely deal with insecurity. We will eliminate it. We will also make sure that all the federal roads linking Ondo State with other parts of the country are made very motorable.
You heard the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, there in Akure earlier today. Now, we get into our conversation tonight, but Nigeria will be watched by the whole world as it makes the decision on who becomes its next leader, the president. After the February 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections, it will be a day that Nigerians will have to stand up for their decisions and stick by it, because it will mean a lot. That election some have described as a make or mar for Nigeria, not only where you find perhaps the highest coming together of black people on the world, but it's actually the largest country on the African continent. And they say where Nigeria goes, the whole of the continent goes. How Nigeria flourishes also affects the economy of the entire continent. Well, tonight we touch on some of the issues raised in the campaigns in the past few days, especially with the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, who are working hard to ensure that they retain power at the center. With their candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima, who are going to be on the ballot, can they be able to achieve it? We've seen the candidate go to the Ramotu Kingdom in the Niger Delta region of the country, a place or region that has been not being a stronghold of the ruling party. But can they swing it in the southeast? What is their hope? In fact, in the northeast, some people have said it might be a difficult one for the APC. What are their hopes of retaining power? above all, the issues. Those are the major fundamental of this election. I'm being joined now by a former president of Labour, of the Nigerian Labour Congress, and a former governor of Edo State, who is also a very, very crucial member of the presidential campaign organization of the Bola Tinubu Kashim Shettima Presidential Campaign Council. Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Shiu, thanks again for having me.
Interestingly, you're not in your usual carbon brown color, what will I call it, attire?
Yeah, maybe it's a sign of victory, because in my part of the country, white symbolizes peace and victory. Like when you use a white chalk or
you're already
whatever.
Feeling that you're going to have victory.
Yeah, when we look at our opponents, we can make assumptions as to how we stand relative to our opponents.
What makes what are you saying? What are you saying? You may probably say something that we're not saying.
What are you hearing?
You know, politicians have some. They say that sometimes in politics,
yes,
you look beyond the surface. There are also the supernatural that you also bring into the fray.
In this case, everything is on the surface. If you can't see it, it's because you are not looking hard enough.
Tell us.
Now, with the aid of your glasses and my glasses, we should see it.
Tell us, what are you saying?
What I'm saying
that
is
makes you think that Bola Tinubu, is ahead in the race.
First, there are three main candidates. There are several other.
There are 15 of them, actually.
Yeah, and they are all very competent people, good Nigerians. I believe they all have good intentions. But as I've heard from you repeatedly in this program, you talk about three leading candidates. Okay, so if we talk about those three leading candidates, and sometimes you proceed to mention their names or their parties. You talk about Atiku Abubakar, you have just shown him rather generously. And you speak about my dear friend, Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and then Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressive Congress. It is no secret that you have at least 5 governors who are, including governors that matters in the South-South, where you talk about the stronghold of PDP. Now, some of the governors revolting against Atiku are from that part of the country. And you talk about our candidate for the first time going to
Baramatu
Kingdom. I'm not even sure that a PDP candidate has ever gone to that place, because they have always taken it there for granted. And so PDP is a house divided against itself, and the real damage be done to the reputation of PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar is that governors, not unknown quantities, governors, state chief executives, who have never decamped from PDP, who can be called PDP indigens, they spoke to the fact that you can't trust the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and therefore they withdraw from his campaign council. And even the immediate past governor of Ondo State, Mimiko, is in that group where he went to today. He did have the honor of being received by perhaps the most high-profile politician in that state. So this is not secret to be uncovered. So you know it. You talk about it all the time. So, as they say, even in the background I'm coming from, you introduced me correctly, and I'm very proud of that. As former president of the NLC, we always say that united we stand, divided we fall. So if 5 people have reason to question the character of Atiku Abubakar, that you can't trust his word, that he can't even manage his own party, he can't grant concessions, he's so fixated about certain things, he's totally insensitive to Project Nigeria, the need to keep Nigeria together. He could go to a place like Kaduna and speak to a part of the country and say, don't vote for a Yoruba man. He didn't say don't vote for Tinubu, but that's a huge difference. You might say don't vote for Tinubu, but when you say don't vote for a Yoruba man, and you say these people who call themselves ethnic nationalities, don't vote for Yoruba, don't vote for an Igbo man, the Igbo nation. So, because the man is Igbo, it doesn't matter. The fact of being Igbo makes him unelectable. a man who seeks to govern Nigeria, has said this publicly on record. How can you trust him? You can't manage your household. You are a serial divorcee, and you want to preach unity, family unity to me? No, that's not that. So it's not difficult to see why Atiku can't win. He can't.
I've had
because also remember, Shehu, that when he had the benefit of a joint ticket between Atiku as presidential candidate and Obi as vice presidential candidate, he got all the votes, and he had his wife. I hear they are separated now, or the divorce is in court. Jennifer, who he later converted to Jamila. Even with that all going for him, went to the East, I told them, your daughter is my wife. He got all the vote in the East, but he couldn't make it. Now, between him and Obi, they are falling apart, just like he has fallen apart with many PDP governors. So what miracle does he have? Because, I mean, unless you know what I don't know. But if it is based on what people can see,
because politics is
this house is broken.
So we might be able to analyze based on the science of what we are saying. And part of it is that there are a few factors that are maybe of advantage to your party, and of course there are disadvantages also for your party. And for the other parties, Labour Party, ABGA, AAC, and the rest of the political parties, they have their advantages, and they also have their disadvantages.
That is life.
Now, one of the advantage that your party has had over the last 2 election cycles is that you have a unique candidate who undoubtedly has brought to the fore, nothing less than 10 million votes. And he has done that consistently. That man will not be on the ballot any longer. Now, this man had gone head-to-head with the man Atiku Abubakar that you have talked about. Now, these are 2 strong men who have gone to the contest several times and tested it. Bola Tinubu is going to the ring for the very first time at this level. He's not been able to validate himself with any votes that we understand or know in national elections, except when he was a senator, but of course that was short-lived. But then, at the national level at this stage, he's not been tested.
You don't even remember that he contested election as governor of Lagos State and he won?
No, I'm talking about the national level, at the presidential level. So I'm saying Atiku Abubakar, Buhari, they've gone into the bout several times, but their votes have been tested.
Yeah.
But Bola Tinubu has not been tested at that level.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Isn't that?
If you are a good sportsman, and particularly if you watch boxing, or if you are following the recent World Cup, you will find that some teams that have been in the World Cup and some that have never appeared, this year edition, they are making a huge, bold statement, redefining the name of the game and playing it differently and putting the traditional champions on notice that the world is changing, it can never be the same again. Now, Atiku is battle-weary. He has nothing new to say. He will sell everything. I will sell an NPC. Once he says he will sell an NPC, people say, oh, that was the way you sold Nitel. What became of Nitel? Oh, I will enrich my friends. Even if I'm not enrich my family, so it's about enriching your friends. And so those Nigerians who don't know you, what are they going to gain? So I don't think you want to play that up. I think Atiku himself, just that at this point, it's hard for a man to say, look, I throw in the towel in the middle of the game. So you rather patch it up. You know, there's nothing. He's the weakest link right now. So among the 3 leading candidates, I think he's the weakest.
So you've not touched on the question I asked about the fact that your candidate has not been tested compared to the likes. In fact, Peter Obi has been on the ballot before, but your candidate has not been on the ballot before.
So they have something in common. Both of them have offered themselves before and they were rejected. That cannot be a plus. But let me just draw your attention to the fact that you are, if we have to say the truth, you are easily one of the most seasoned political desk TV hosts in this country today. I'm sure you will agree that around the world, there are many who offer themselves for the first time and unfortunately they won, like Macron. There are several. So it is not an advantage In fact, sometimes you become stale. Oh, Atiku again. What he could do articulate last time, he's going to de-articulate now. So I think that there's something that Nigerians are able to see, that the fact that somebody has been there supporting, not say I have to be. For Atiku, if he's not the candidate, he takes a flight to Dubai. But you are talking of someone who, upon leaving office, supported his wife rather than himself, talking about selfless service and talking about gender equality, says, okay, you know, madam, you've been looking after the children for 8 years while I was at Alausa. Now you go to Abuja and I will look at the home front in Lagos. And that doesn't make him different. He provides support for others, including Buhari, to contest, and fortunately for him to win. Now, that shows someone who is ready to support people who he believes, you know, can handle the Nigeria project.
Does that make him,
as compared to someone who, if he's not the one, then he's out of the game.
Does that make him better than any of the candidates?
He speaks to character. He speaks to character. You see, when you have sets of belief, you cannot be jumping from one party to the other in every other election. If there is something that you believe in, it's not possible that today you praise PDP. Just play at Atiku's statement since 1999. As a vice president, he challenged his own boss. And then, at the end of that tenure, he's in history as the only vice president, not only in Nigeria, perhaps anywhere else in the world, who decided to question the right of his boss to contest for second term. And his boss have to go on his knees to persuade him to allow him, because the boss trusted him, unknown to him that it was about himself. He thought they had a joint ticket. So if he's in another jurisdiction, Atiku's ambition is just about himself. It's not about Nigeria. And you know, whatever you want to say, people still listen to some persons. Some children ask, not children, young students ask Obasanjo, what is your regret in life? And without any difficulty, he said, the day I choose Atiku as my running mate. Not because of his face or his name, but because of his character. He said it's all about himself. But from day one, he was plotting to get rid of him.
But some of these things, they say the former president has said he did not make those kinds
No. They show it on China television. You are not one of the purveyors of fake news.
No, I
you
don't
are taking seriously.
No.
You need to know you are taking seriously.
We don't need.
So I'm saying I saw Obasanjo on China television talking to young people who asked him, "Do you have any regret in life?" It was a secret meeting. It wasn't a secret family meeting. It wasn't a scoop that somebody revealed.
So based on that, you don't think Atiku should be trusted?
His governor said you can't trust him. Those who are leaders of his party, 5 of them, says you can't trust this man. Every agreement we reach with him, he broke it. It's a serial betrayal of agreements. And that when he's seeking power as an applicant, he doesn't even respect agreement as an applicant. When he gets the job as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, what string do you have to pull?
But if you're
you know, there's a saying that you have to stoop to conquer.
If you're pointing this,
he's not even ready.
If you're saying this, comrade, the PDP will also say this about your candidate, and they will point out that the man that you're describing, or you're pointing, you're looking at, your candidate, has also had a series of relationships with his former allies that have gone awry. They will mention the Minister of Interior. They will mention a former governor who couldn't get a second term ticket. They will list they will have a long list of people who have been allies of the former Lagos governor that have fallen off because of their own reasons.
Why are you comparing potato with yams? You're talking about alliance. I'm talking about someone with his eye open by 1999, contesting as a vice president, and by 2023, challenging the then president not to run for second term, and positioning himself to take over from his boss against the wish of his boss. And once he lost out, he's on record, listening attentively, decamping as a sitting president, vice president, decamping to ACN so that he can get the presidential platform to challenge, to contest for presidency. It didn't matter to him all that PDP had offered him. Our candidate has never decamped. When they took his party from him in the manner that they did, which is no secret, he simply formed another one. And from there, they form alliance. You can't find anywhere he has decamped. That's about character.
So what are you telling Nigerians about tonight?
Wait, that's about consistency. That's about having sets of beliefs. And it's not a coincidence that every party that is associated with is a progressive party. The word progressive is in it. Because it's about character. It's about what you believe in. Now, if you're talking about those who benefited from his leadership, those he picked, built them all like the Minister of External Affairs, and he believes he has grown up, and he now is now a big boy, he can live on his own, and he walk away. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't blame Asiwaju for that. You may wish to ask the guy, given that, but for this man, you would have been known. Why will you do this? Many of us didn't know that Adegbeshola is not from Oshu State until he was posted, until he went to Oshu to contest election. We knew him as Commissioner of Works, Lagos State, for 8 years. Before then, I didn't know him. Now, where did you mention that he supported Ambode and he left? Was there a vacancy in Lagos? They brought a young man who everybody see, you can see is doing a much, much better job.
Babajide Sanwo-Olu.
Babajide Sanwo-Olu. You can't compare Sanwo-Olu's, look at the way he managed COVID in Lagos. Look at Fashola. I bet you are being selective. You actually speaking to the finest quality of Asiwaju to catch them young, identify them young, build them up, mentor them, and challenge them with position of responsibility. If you know, there was one interview I watched on channel television. It was hosted by Khadija also. He asked Atiku, she asked Atiku, who have you built? Who can you say, I picked this guy from the ground, from the floor, and here he is up there now, courtesy of my mentorship. And he said, now, I saw him now talking about education in Ondo State. What is the level of illiteracy in Adamawa where he come from? After being vice president for 8 years, what did he do to reduce the level of illiteracy? Because before you promise people what you will do tomorrow, they must examine what you did right or wrong yesterday.
All right.
A vice president of when Atiku was vice president, at least the first day, he was extremely powerful. I knew that because I was president of the NLC. I was more or less the unofficial opposition to that government. So you ask, how much impact has Atiku made in raising the quality of education and raising the level of literacy in Adamawa State? Yes, he built a private university, which is interesting.
We need to take a break. We are due for a break. Yeah. But when we come back, we will dwell a bit on the character and the capacity of your candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and why Nigerians should vote for him. And in any case, he's on the platform of the APC. Why should Nigerians retain the APC in power? Have they performed optimally based on the promises? We're talking about that when we return from this break, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back to the conversation. I've been speaking with the former president of the Nigerian Labour Congress and former governor of Edo State, who is playing a major role in the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Comrade Adams Oshiomhole has been speaking with us on the program. Thank you so much indeed, comrade, for joining us, albeit in your very unusual white garment today. So, you've spoken so much about Atiku Abubakar, and perhaps the PDP will be thinking, oh, well, Adams Oshiomhole is bothered about Atiku because he knows Atiku has the capacity to win the election. But let me get to what the question mark might be on. Perhaps it's a big fear for Bola Tinubu that Southeast and South-South could be a trouble in the political equation going into the election for the APC. APC has not really had good times in the Southeast and South-South. Was that the reason we went to Baramoto Kingdom?
Well, this is a very good question. Southeast and South-South is where PDP has had their strongest hold and even the highest votes. If you look at Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's votes in 2019, he got about 5 million votes from the South. He got more votes from the South than he got from the North. And those votes came from the South-South and Southeast. Now, as we speak, Rivers gave him, I think, about 2 million votes. And now he has serious problems with Rivers. He has serious problems with one or two other Southeast states. For the first time, I mean, in 2019, all the governors in the Southeast were PDP, supporting him. This time, you have a governor in Ebonyi and in Imo who are supporting APC. Plus, one of the PDP governors that, based on these character issues, trust issues, is among the now popular, highly respected G5, or Integrity Group, within the PDP, made up of 5 governors and several other former governors like Donald Duke, Mimiko of Ondo State, and several other prominent people you can't dismiss politically. So I think there are 2 things I can see, and then you don't have to be a seasoned political analyst to appreciate this fact. But whereas President Buhari became president of Nigeria twice without the vote from Southeast and South-South, candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu this time has 2 Southeast governors working hard for him in Imo and in Ebonyi State, which we didn't have before. Buhari did have that benefit in 2015 and 2019. And like you rightly said, he went to Baramatu Kingdom, which for me,
as in Delta State,
speaks to several issues about his views about Nigeria. Going to a place that none of his predecessors, I mean, those who have governed Nigeria, in the course of electioneering, they take those people for granted. They just cope with the pollution. I'm sure the people in that area are honored that for the first time, a presidential candidate consider it worthwhile to come to them and solicit for their support. That is a huge, huge recognition and appreciation of the fact that you have a man in as Bola Ahmed Tinubu who is not looking at anybody as a minority. Every part of Nigeria matters to him. Whereas maybe previous ones, Atiku has been there. Maybe now, I would be surprised if he tried to arrange a quick visit. Like he has arranged.
Well, I mean, because you are in the inner circle of the APC.
Yes.
Aren't the G5 working with your party?
If the G5 are working for our party, they are bold enough to say where they are working for. It's not me to ask. You should ask them. But I have not said they are working for it. If I meant to say so, I would have said so. But what is obvious, based on what they have said, because I don't believe in hidden agenda, I believe in the open agenda. Let me speak to the open agenda. They said, because of character issues, trust issues, and I think the person who has summarized it most eloquently is His Excellency Governor Wike. He said, you are not a president. We have agreement with you. We are city governors. Whether you like it or not, a city governor is more potent than a presidential aspirant because he is governing and superintending over a subnational government. So you have agreement with us as subnational government, and you being an applicant who is still at our mercy, once you pass through the first hurdle of the primaries, you renege on the agreement. And that is why he now danced to this very interesting music. Agreement is agreement. You don't obey agreement, then I will not trust you. And really, you know, all of these promises that politicians make, it's about trust. Why should you trust? So if this man, as an applicant for the office of president, will not obey agreement he voluntarily entered into with governors. These are very serious people.
So let me now take you to...
so why will you obey an agreement with you?
So the thing is that
our candidate is saying every part of Nigeria matters. And there is no better way to promise the Niger Delta people that they will not be the proverbial fish that can't have access to clean water to drink. Because by going there, he can see for himself, and I'm sure he saw for himself, the condition of the people, and he doesn't need to rely on briefing to be told what pollution means, whether it's air pollution, water pollution, environmental pollution, and all of those things that have destroyed farmlands and so forth.
Comrade, talking about agreement, your party, the APC, made an agreement with Nigerians. And several times they've said, look, there won't be queues on the road. But, I mean, the picture see...
You use the correct words. In campaigns, you don't make agreement. You make promises.
But your
There's
party...
a huge difference.
Your party... I'm saying your party has an agreement with the Nigerian people.
No.
Your party has engaged the Nigerian people. That's why they voted them into government. And when they gave them the power to be in government, your party has an agreement with Nigeria to protect lives, to make their protect lives and property, and make their lives better. These are the agreement that they made with the Nigerian people with their votes. But if you look at the queues that you see, I mean, interestingly, you're a former president of the NLC. And I bet you that if you were the NLC president at this time, you probably would have taken your colleagues to the street. How difficult is it to ensure that...
About what?
About the fuel queues that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Are they necessary?
No, I have no answer to that because I don't know the cause of the queues.
Let me play a soundbite of the Ipman president who was on the program yesterday. We'll play you that soundbite in a moment, who was saying that simply there was a breakdown of the pipelines of the NNPC, and so there are third parties who are helping to distribute it, and that way it's raising the price of the commodity. But the question is that how can you have a government that has spent almost 8 years in office, and we have oil, well, one of the largest oil producing countries in the world, and yet we are not able to refine, and that Nigerians are now suffering every day, having to queue on the road every day. And so what would you tell Nigerians that, look, our party is fit enough to get your vote again or the third time?
Okay. So this is very simple. First, you use the word breakdown. Now, systems can suffer failure. Even you do breakdown. There was a time I called you, I said, I did see you for 2-3 consecutive days, and you said you were ill-disposed, which means your system failed you. But as soon as you recover, you go back to the desk. So if you have an accident or breakdown, it's not a basis for a long-term decision-making. Number two, we must ask the question, who destroyed the refineries? What was the condition of the refineries by 1999? From 1999 to 2015, PDP was in power for 16 years. During these 16 years, if they bring out the figures, what they claim to have spent maintaining these refineries, you will faint. And a PDP president decided to privatize the refinery. That was Obasanjo, towards the tail end of his tenure. Another PDP president came and revised the privatization, promising 6 months that fuel will be available. 16 years later, you remember that part of the problem, one of the huge crises that President Jonathan faced was dealing with this issue. And I'm on record as one of the few governors who said this is not a party matter. We have to act as statesmen and protect the system, because if Nigeria fails, God forbid, there's no country, we don't have a neighboring country where we can migrate to. We can absorb all the other countries around us, but they can absorb us. So if you talk about maintenance of the refinery, you will have to trace the history to 60 years of PDP. They couldn't fix the refineries for 6 years. Now, a couple of things that I believe this government has done in this area. They managed to get past the PPIB into law. That is something that has been on the drawing board for God knows how many years. And we are all persuaded to believe that without that law, we're not going to attract the right investment to that sector. Now, that has been done. And order this government, because every government speaks to how the private sector should be the engine of growth. That seems to be the in thing. Not state control, not state ownership of business. Even candidate Atiku speaks about privatizing NPC. But to the discredit of President Buhari, and additionally credit to Bola Ahmed Tinubu that his vision to set up a free trade zone in Lagos attracted the private sector investment, the Electoral refinery, which is going to be the second largest refinery in the world by a Nigerian, located in Lagos. Now, why Lagos? Lagos is not known to be the highest or one of the major oil producing states. So why Lagos? Because Lagos created the enabling environment. They thought through the idea of a deep sea port. You remember how Eko Atlantic used to overrun Victoria Island, fought it back, and reclaim a place we now call the
Babbage.
No. The Babbage. No, we now call it, I think it's now called Eko Atlantic, which is now a very beautiful area. The land they reclaim from the Atlantic Ocean is almost as large as Victoria Island. And that is why some of us say, a man who can fought the Atlantic Ocean and reclaim it and turn it to a high-profile area, you can't compare him to somebody from Anambra who, according to the current governor, presided over a state that, according to Soludo, is the headquarters of gully erosion.
But the reclamation was,
if not in the world,
the reclamation of the Eko Atlantic was during Pashola days.
Yeah, but the planning didn't start there. These things, there's a long-term program. If you ask Fashola, he will tell you when the decision was taken, how they went to Singapore, how they were inspired to do a couple of things and decide that this is the long-term solution to this perennial problem.
Comrade, the question I'm asking you tonight is, why should Nigerians consider your party to lead this country again in 2023? Has your party deserved it?
If we don't deserve it, who deserves it? Those who mismanaged the country for 16 years, so bad that they themselves, I remember, if you were to check, and I know you are a very smart guy, check your visuals, do some research. You will find where somebody like the former Senate president and a few others, when they form what they call, before they form a new PDP, and eventually they come to APC. You remember that there was this debate about changing the name of PDP because PDP was no longer electable because of the damage they did to Nigeria at a time when the oil prices for about 5 consecutive years, we were crossing over $100 a barrel, or at a point $140 dollars a barrel, producing over 2 million barrels per day. And yet, the economy became what it was. So the Nigerians were so fed up that national elections had to be postponed, because when you talk about security, you talk as if Nigeria was so secured. Now, what led us to make that promise in the first place? Boko Haram started under President Obasanjo in Maiduguri, and then get additional strength up to the time of Jonathan. So strong that President Jonathan requested of the National Council of State for endorsement to postpone national elections because 28 local governments were hosting foreign flag. So you can't conduct election across Nigeria, and the national election in 2015 were postponed. Now, whether you appreciate it or not, the truth of the matter is, go and talk to people in Borno State. They will tell you that Boko Haram has been, I mean, we can't say it's no longer there, but certainly it doesn't have the kind of strength, the power to even violate and make it impossible for people to go to mosque.
Comrade, we're out of time. I will allow you a parting shot, and it's going to be in 30 seconds. A lot of Nigerians, perhaps some of them who have not made up their minds on the president they need to vote for, perhaps they're watching tonight and they're considering who to vote for. What is that one thing that you could tell them? If you have 30 seconds to convince them tonight about your candidate, what would that be? Just in 30 seconds.
First, that Tinubu has promised exactly what he's going to do in a very coherent manner. The only question is, why should we believe him? Look at what he did in Lagos. The real issue in Nigeria is mobilizing resources. And look at how he mobilized resources in Lagos from a state that was earning 600 million naira IGR to over 50, I don't know what it is now, over 50 billion naira now in a month, not in a year, from 600 million. And I know this because I engaged him over the payment of minimum wage. And so he has that capacity to take the difficult decisions. Many interest groups in Lagos, went to court to challenge his tax reforms in Lagos. And today, Lagos can do without. Number two, he is a believer that Nigeria should be restructured. And he tried to breathe air to it when he decided to create new local governments in Lagos, which President Obasanjo fought him and decided to hire the guys of that reform to stop allocation to local government. So he's a believer that states should have... 30
seconds is over.
The federative units should run their own affairs.
But I must sincerely thank you so much for coming tonight. Well, the battle is on and the race is still on.
No, contest. I don't like to use the word battle. It's a contest.
It's a battle for
so
the soul
people don't think it's about punching. It's a contest.
It's a survivor for the fittest. Thank you so much.
Battle of ideas, yes.
Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, former president of the NLC and the former governor of Edo State. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7. The show on Kimale. God bless Nigeria.